Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, from wherever you're watching us. This is another week of the Ubuntu Community Team Q&A. I'm David Planella, and I'm joined by other members of the community team. We've got Alan Pope and we've got Nicholas Kax. And today we've got our very own guest, Oliver Ries, Director of Engineering in the Ubuntu engineering team. Who will be talking about the roadmap for Ubuntu in the upcoming releases, and in particular, how are we tackling the road to convergence. Essentially, the way these Q&As works, if you're new to them, we've got a channel that you can access via IRC on ubuntuonair.com. There you will see the live video feed, and also you'll be able to join the IRC channel. If you can see us, and if you can confirm that you can see us on IRC, that's tradition for us, so just let us know that the sound is coming through and that the video as well. And other than that, logistics for the if you want to ask a question at any time, feel free to do so on the IRC channel. As I said, you can access it through ubuntuonair.com. Just remember to prefix the question with the word question so that we don't miss it, and then we'll keep watching any question that's coming, and we'll grab them first come, first serve, essentially. All right, so it seems that folks on IRC are starting to say hello. Some of them are waking up. For some of them it's later, but I think we can probably start. Someone, Nathan Hines is mentioning that they can hear us loud and clear. So feel free to start firing away with questions. Okay, everyone says all is good. All right. We've got a few updates to share, but I think we can just do it as the call start moving on in between questions. I think what I'd like to do perhaps is to leave the space to Olli to essentially talk about a bit about the blog post that he published yesterday with all of the updates on the roadmap and lots of exciting news. And then again, feel free to ask any questions, and we'll take them as they come. So, Olli, the stage is yours.
All right, thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's been a while since I've joined such an activity. A little bit of stage fright, but I think it'll be a good full hour. I hope I can share a lot of insights and information, or at least follow up where I don't have the answer readily available. So David asked me to introduce myself real quick and give you guys some context, and also allow myself to warm up. So I've joined Canonical in 2011 together with other people building that team that was work. It was an interesting time. We had lots of designs and ideas and prototypes, and we decided to go after it. And I just have thinking back, that's only 4 years ago, and we've come so far. So that's really really good. Today I'm working for the teams that are building the phone, but also the Ubuntu distribution, the desktop. So we'll talk about it in just a sec. And it's just great to be part of such great teams there, and help them do the great job that they do. I have been in the past involved in things like Unity 8 and Mir. So that's why my name might sound familiar. And so, yeah. The blog post. So I had to do some clarification, and I really needed to sit down myself and think about, what's the right terminology, what's the right nomenclature, because we do a lot of innovative things. We toss out names like nobody else, project names and things. So that's all good, but it's I notice that it's getting confusing. And if it's getting confusing for me as a Canonical employee, how do you guys feel on the other end of this line? And so I thought it might be worthwhile to sit down and just write down what are the individual keywords that we've heard and what's behind it and not. The key message, however, is that at the core of everything that we do is Ubuntu, and that manifests itself in quite a few things. It's us here in the community, doing this Q&A session, the whole communication channels we have on IRC and forums and everything where people that don't know each other or might not have met in person are helping each other and working on this on Ubuntu. There's all the developers that submit code and are part of it, local teams and so on and so forth. So that's I think when we talk about Ubuntu on a more technical term, it's on a tangible term, it's the archives, and it's what I'm running right now on my laptop. And so that I think really the key of this blog. Now there's lots of distractions, so recently you probably see a lot of work and traffic around Snappy and Snappy Core and Snappy Ubuntu Personal or Ubuntu Snappy Personal, one way or the other. And so I tried to clarify a little bit. And with regards to Snappy, it's not necessarily my place to talk about it because it's work with it, but it's not a part. It's in a different team. So for questions in that specific area, I'd like to invite you to ping our friends in the #Snappy channel on Freenode. But Snappy in itself is just an adjective, right? It's a description. It's that snappy, part of Ubuntu where we are making sure that you free yourself from all the limitations that we've seen evolve in an OS platform these days. And so things like transactional updates, canary updates, self-contained packages, all those things I think are not necessarily groundbreaking new rocket science technologies that we've invented, but it's something that there's a big demand right now for those technologies and using them in a modern operating system platform. And so Snappy is really a description of the summary of all those technologies that we're making. And so that's, I think, the first clarification. It doesn't describe a particular project or a product even, right? It's an attribute of the work that we do with our products. More focused for the audience in this call, or at least the area I can speak to more comfortably is then Snappy Ubuntu Personal. So Personal is another rendition of Ubuntu that is leveraging all those technologies. And really it started from our work on the phone 4+ years ago, where we had to solve those needs and address those needs. How do you update a phone? So we were working on system image updates, and how do you do confinement for applications? How we can we implement that? And so there was Click that we came up with as a packaging format, and then an evolution of that was then really what we refer to as Snap packages and that whole ecosystem and architecture around those technologies. So Personal is essentially the continuation of our work on the phone. So we have plans to code converge, if you will, the existing phone code base onto Ubuntu Personal. And then it's addressing primarily and first and foremost users of those mobile devices. But there's nothing that really would prevent you from using it on your laptop, for example. And I think specifically convertibles, I'm sitting in front of an XPS 12 right now, will be an interesting use case where you have a laptop but also a tablet. So I think Unity 8 that will be part of, will be default in Ubuntu Personal, will cater to those use cases quite well. Currently, we're growing it from our use cases that we support on the phone quite well towards those larger use cases that desktop users need. So multi-monitor, window management, and so on and so forth. Those are features that we're currently adding. So I lost my train of thought. So that's Ubuntu Personal. That's one thing that we've been talking about. And as I said, it's the next step in the evolution of a modern operating system for those users. I felt like a lot of concern from the community about Ubuntu and whether it will cease to exist. So Ubuntu is the Linux distribution that we have installed today. And I kind of felt bad for having that notion out there. Probably a lot of it my fault for not communicating well or so. But I want to be really clear that Ubuntu as the Linux distribution that you install is there today. Debian currently runs Ubuntu Unity 7, and we don't have substantial plans to change that. When I say substantial, I'm addressing the need that, for example, we are developing Unity 8 right now, and at one point we would like to switch that over. But we previously tried to address that in 1404 or 1604, but we don't feel it's quite ready to make it the default for such a versatile operating system, because Ubuntu as the distribution is addressing such a broad variety of users and has such a broad user base, from my grandmother, which I'm using as sort of the least technical experience persona, up to developers in operating as their development desktop. And the needs are different. And Mark in the, I think, May Ubuntu Online Summit keynote already mentioned that whether Unity 8 will become a default or not, will be a community decision. And so the next online summit, I think, will be a good point to discuss this and see if we are, as a community, ready to incorporate Unity 8 into our distribution, Ubuntu. I'm trying to switch over to phones and what we're doing there, and also one clarification that I wanted to give there was, we'd often talk about Ubuntu Touch. Again, that's a name, project name we used in the beginning. It was easy to pick. I don't think a lot of thoughts went into it, but it's a project name, right? And really, I think the official name on the websites are Ubuntu Phone or Ubuntu for mobile devices. However, that's a code base essentially to us, because we're still building everything out of the archives, out of Ubuntu, but are pulling different components in through the seeds to build that particular image that's then going onto your phones. So, as I mentioned, code convergence earlier, we're trying to migrate that code base onto Ubuntu Personal. And that's currently a task that we're working on, which is interesting because it will incorporate snappy technologies and features at the same time while we're shipping products to customers and are doing such a massive platform change. So we decided to tread it rather carefully because the user experience, the promise that we gave to our customers, we want to stick to that and make sure that we cater well to our early supporters in our adventure of getting into the mobile market. So eventually, we'll see those two streams of personal and Ubuntu Phone converge and be just one code base, one seed, if you will. And that's that. Okay. David, did I miss anything key, or I haven't been following the questions so far, but
I think that was a good overview. I think in any case, the questions will probably cover aspects that we might have over. overseen. As we've mentioned already on the channel, we've sent a link to Olli's blog post, which explains in more detail essentially the overview that he was now doing. I think for now we should probably start looking at the questions. We've got quite a lot of activity on the channel, so we should probably start with the first one. All right. So first question is from Kiwi. That's one traditional question that we seem to get quite often. Any news on North America, on a North American phone yet?
We're still working with our partners on that. I think that's about all the news I can share at this point. Personally, living in the States, I would really have one there. But as of today, you can't quite buy one. But it's a priority for us because it's a big market.
All right. So next question we've got from blah blah. It's when can we download the Ubuntu personal ISO image with an installer?
The ISO I would expect rather soon. The installer piece, considering that that this distribution is meant, for a factory and where you flash it. We're still evaluating what's the right approach for an installer. In any case, you will be able to install it, waving to my friend DD, but it might not be the best user experience in the beginning. So it's something we need to discuss for the 1510 cycle, what our plans there are.
So does that mean for the short term, it'll be a case of you download an image, DD it onto a USB stick, and you boot off of that to try it out, rather than you put it on a USB stick and then install from there?
Right. That's what I envision. It's a pre-made image. Doesn't matter if you stick it in a VM or a USB key or onto your disk. You just bring the bits and pieces on there and boot it and gonna have fun.
Right. So I can see that being a problem, obviously, for people who want to install it using a different language, for example, or want to tweak the install and maybe.
Right. So we're in the factory process. We're dealing with that. That's one of the challenges that we need to address, and how in the phone you do have a pre-selected language, but then you also have the wizard in the beginning where you take those configurations, which technically it's not an installer, it's more a config tool, but it's just, we need to see. We have the bits and pieces there from the phone, but I'm not quite sure, if we've nailed down all the plans as to how it would be personal.
Okay.
All right. Okay, let me check the questions again. So I think the next one is from Kiwi. Will Ubuntu Touch support snapshots? I'm not sure if that needs some more context. Kiwi, you might want to tell us a bit more what you understand by snapshots, but I'm not sure. I mean, perhaps Olli or someone else can answer it already.
I assume that means like ButterFS type snapshots, taking an image and then making changes, and if it fails, going back to the last known good. I don't think we have plans to do that out of the box yet. It may be something in the future we do, but I don't think we have any plans to do it yet.
Yeah, definitely not on our radar from a future perspective.
Okay. All right. So BBT2 is asking, will Ubuntu run Windows applications without Wine? Well, I think the road code. I mean, I'll take that question. But if you guys want to complement that, feel free to. But essentially, I think in short the answer is no. If we're talking about legacy Windows applications or the applications that generally run with Wine, that's right. A bit of out of the scope for Ubuntu in general.
It's the same answer for. Can Windows run Linux applications, or can OS X run Windows applications? It's exactly the same question, and the answer is no, out of the box.
Okay. And we've got a question from Oyesh. RAM consumption Well, what is the RAM consumption in Unity 7 Xorg versus Unity 8 Mir?
So I'm gonna have to make a bold statement because I can't back it up with data.
You can say anything.
No, one of our beliefs, and we can get data on that. I just don't have it readily available. Is that coming from a mobile platform where you're very much resource constrained in terms of CPU, GPU, RAM, and disk, is benefiting Unity 8. So it made us think hard about the architecture with those resources. So right now I'm just making the bold statement. It needs less resources, and I can take an action then to follow up with, see how much of a fool I made of myself right now.
All right. Okay. The next question is from Nick90. By the way, Nick's90 for the ones that are joining us today for the first time is one of our core app developers who developed the clock application that's shipped by default on the phones, and he's helped in quite a lot of other applications. He's also one of the developers of the popular Podbeard application that you can find on the store for podcast. So yeah, I just wanted to make clear and say kudos to Nick again. We try to do this as anytime we get the opportunity. All right, so he's asking, is the dev-based Ubuntu going to be stopped once Ubuntu Personal becomes stable?
Nope, it is not. So again, like everything we do, all the products that we build, all the derivatives that we build, all the images that we send into a factory are being built out of the archive. Archive is Debian based, and so it would be a rather unsmart move to do that. So it will be there. That's Ubuntu, and we do not have any plans to change that.
All right.
Let's get a categorical answer on that, because
Go on.
people start asking that question, and it's nice to get a straightforward, no, we're not throwing that away. So thank you for that, Olli.
Let's see what the press makes out of that, because we've said that before, but
Olli says Unity and Mir will run in 64K of RAM.
On your Commodore C64.
Yeah.
All right, so back to common sense. Who is dev-based and Snappy-based Ubuntu targeted at?
So that was a good question that also was part of the feedback on the blog post that I didn't get to comment to. How to explain? Like I think the audience for Ubuntu Personal, so what you call Snappy-based, is people that have less versatile needs towards the operating system. On Ubuntu today, the good thing is I can do everything and anything with my desktop, right? I can install the Ubuntu desktop meta package and boom, it's a desktop. I can delete that and I just have a headless Ubuntu system or Linux system. I can make it a server, right? And that's all like on one system without quote unquote changing the install, having to reinstall. I think users that we're trying to target with Personal won't have those needs in the beginning. We still want to make it a compelling developer platform, but a lot of the features that we want to address with that set of technologies is app confinement and defined states of the system, and so that's a contradiction right there. And so I think there will be some versatility in use cases that you won't have in a virgin Ubuntu Personal. But as both are there, you can make the choice as to what operating system fits your needs better. I think that's a strong statement as well.
right. So next question is from blah blah. When will this page ubuntuonair.com be redesigned? It's frustrating. Please at least move the comment IRC next to the video, right, and make it more beautiful. Maybe drop the dotted background. Well, I think someone was actually asking before what's the best way or how to start contributing to Ubuntu. This might be a good opportunity for that. So yeah, we're aware that that there's room for improvement. There's no question on the Ubuntu on Air page. But as the rest of Ubuntu, that page is it's a collaborative project. It was created by a community member. I think it was Jose Reyes who created it first. And I'm sure he or ourselves, as users of the or consumers of the page, would welcome some help on this. So if you've got any concrete feedback on how do you think it could be redesigned to be more useful, and if you're willing to help to make it happen, just feel free to ping any one of us on this channel, and we can follow up on that. Okay. Let me just scan through the questions. All right, so we've got a question from D. Holbach. D. Holbach is one of the community team members at Canonical, and he couldn't make it today due to some hardware problems. But he's joining us on IRC. So he's asking, in which part of Ubuntu would you like people to get involved? This is quite a broad question, but quite a good one. So perhaps we can do a round of answers. I mean, I myself right now I would find it awesome that people get involved in the ecosystem of Ubuntu on the phone, which will, as a developer, get you visibility on Ubuntu Personal as the desktop as well. Also, as localization is an area in which about which I'm passionate about, I would welcome any contributions to translating Ubuntu. But I'm sure other people have got other views, so perhaps, I don't know, we could perhaps start with Nicholas. I know he's passionate about other things, and I'm sure he's got a really good answer as well.
Well, like David, of course, I have my own special areas that are special to me, if you will. So that would be testing, first and foremost. And I would say it's actually one of the easiest things to get involved in right out of the gate, and one of the most exciting, simply because you get to see what's new, what's coming, and sort of have and participate in the process of making and shaping Ubuntu and making it better for everyone. So if testing interests you, there's a wiki page on the Ubuntu wiki, wiki.ubuntu.com/QA team, and you'll find lots of interesting options available to you. I guess the other thing I would say is potentially getting involved in the Core Apps projects. I don't want to steal Poppy's thunder, so I'm sure he'll tell you all about that. I'm sorry. I also think that's a great way to get involved, and he'll tell you more about that, I'm sure. So I'll shut up.
No, I'm gonna defer to Olli. I'm gonna abstain from this question. Olli, what do you think it's going to be like in 1604?
That's a totally different question.
That's the question I asked. Do you think the landscape will look like for third-party developers?
No. That was the question about in which part of Ubuntu you'd like to get people to get involved.
Oh, really? Clearly, I'm reading a different list of questions. In which case, yeah, of course, Core Apps. Yeah, come and help me out with Core Apps.
Are you sure it's only 4 o'clock where you are?
This is tea, honestly, tea.
All right.
Yeah.
So the question that I'm going to answer to is, in which part of Ubuntu would you like people to get involved? And that's Daniel's question. So I have a QA background. Testing, as Nick said, is great. Right? It's easy because the ramp up, the skills and knowledges are, the levels are around. You don't need to be a kernel hacker to get involved there. You don't need to know how to use Launchpad for localization, to do that. Use it and give us feedback. I think that's a really, good entry way into the community. Apps, the question that Poppy successfully ditched, the aspect, totally going to exploit that now. Yes, we need apps, and it's amazing to see, like, on the phone where we can measure, at least to me, I have a better rate of measuring, like the contributions from the community in the store and numbers of downloads and so on and so forth. We're young, but every number, every new zero at the end of a number, we're celebrating, and we had quite a party so far. So getting new contributions, through apps is really helping us as a platform, and it's a pioneering environment still. There's lots of new things that aren't covered. There's lots of stakes somebody can claim and do something. I think that's the second biggest thing. But then also providing us feedback. So with 16.04 coming up, I mentioned in the blog post that Will, the engineering manager over Ubuntu, is curious to get your feedback, and we'll have a couple of activities to reach out to you. Tell us how we're using Ubuntu, and what are the things that keep you from moving to Unity 8, and so on and so forth. I think having that feedback would be highly appreciated as well. So that's my not so short answer, but I had to answer for Poppy as well, so I don't feel too bad.
All right. Okay, nice job, Poppy, at deferring the question. And one thing that I should mention as well, when I mentioned app development in my case, we should always think of not only apps, but apps/scopes. I think we're quite used from other platforms to be talking about applications. But one thing to remember is that one of the things that makes Ubuntu on the phone different is the way in which we can seamlessly deliver content through scopes and aggregation of content. So if you're considering to contribute as a third-party developer to the ecosystem, I'd recommend to head up to developer.ubuntu.com/scopes and learn how you can actually create a scope in 5 minutes. Okay, so back to that was just a wrap up. So back to the questions again. Okay. There was another question from Kiwi. Olli, in Ubuntu Snappy, are there any things such as libraries that you will need to build statically?
So I'm not entirely sure if I understand the question correctly in the way you asked it, but delivering applications in the Snap packaging format will require them to be self-contained. So that will require them to bring everything, all the libraries, tools, art, assets, and so forth, just right there. So yes, it is statically built applications and executables. We're still debating to what level the platform will provide shared libraries, but generally, in our attempt to allow you the freedom to decouple you from any platform dependencies, at this point, I wouldn't, assume that Qt will be there as a shared resource, for example. So it's one of the big ones that we're currently debating, and it's a balancing act, and we're still trying to see, where do we get the best benefit out of that. I hope that explained your question. If not, feel free to grab me.
Okay, cool. So we've got quite a lot of questions. Just as a reminder for all of us, including myself, we should probably try to speed up the rate at which we're answering them.
Message received.
All right. Limi Van B is asking, what are the new features of the next version of Ubuntu? I'm assuming that's 15.10. It's meant by that.
Poppy, this sounds like you could answer
that. No. So as far as I know, the next version will have updated packages. The desktop for 15.10 will have updated packages for all the same kind of things we have on the desktop on 15.04. So the kernel, LibreOffice, new versions of Firefox, and the bits that we own, Unity 7, and all the toolkit and bits and bobs underneath that is also getting updated. I hear we're getting some updates for high DPI support displays, maybe?
Yep. So, following David's request, Ubuntu Make, the one tool you want as a developer on your system, will have another iteration. High DPI and energy consumption are the things that Will told me keeps the team busy right now.
Cool. All right, yeah, and just to explain why you got all that surprise face on all of us when you asked that question, I think the best person to answer this question is Will Cook from the desktop team. They're working on the day-to-day features of desktop, and I think in any case, Alan and Olli did a really good job at providing the answer. All right. Nick Knight is asking, can Unity 8 and Mir be used in the dev-based Ubuntu since it uses click packaging on the phone?
Yes, we do have a session which is more or less well hidden in LightDM, but instead of logging just into Unity 7 in LightDM today, you can choose to log into Unity 8, and I just verified earlier with Kevin, who's owning that whole stack, that it's already running on Mir right there. So even on Ubuntu, the Debian-based distribution, you get the goodies of Unity 8.
Cool. All right, another question for Olli. It comes from Kiwi. Mm-hmm. What is the difference between Unity 8, Unity Next, Ubuntu Touch? Is there one that I'm missing?
From Pulver, that have been going through the blogosphere that I'm missing. So I want to be clear. Unity is the desktop. Ubuntu Unity is our desktop shell. The current version that you're seeing is Unity 7, also referred to as generally Unity. Unity 8 is the next version of it that we're working with, the QML-based one. Those are the desktop shells. Ubuntu Touch, as I said in the beginning, is the not-to-be-used project name referring to Ubuntu Phone. So that's the code base that you see on the Nexus 4s, Mesus, BQ phones, and so on and so forth. And then I think when you said Unity Next, you might have referred to Desktop Next, which was an image, which was a technical preview, where we tried to incorporate the phone technologies into something that you could put onto your desktop. And we tried and did, and it was working well. But as I'm describing my blog, we'll probably abandon that at this point as a preview, since we're moving to person. I recommend reading that blog post, and if there's still questions, feel free to grab me anytime.
All right. Next question is from Robert Schroll, also one of our most active app developers. He's the developer of Peru. Question: GNOME has been working on their own application sandboxing, and he's pointing to a blog post from 2014 from GNOME saying that desktop containers are the way forward. Has there been, or will there be, any collaboration with them? I'm not sure if any one of us can answer that question. I would add something on my on a personal note. I followed that blog post a while ago, and it was published, and I think there was some talk within Canonical as well, or how we could collaborate. But I think ever since then, there hasn't been any more movement, or at least it's not something that I've been following up. So I think there isn't collaboration right now, as per if there will be in the future. I think that's again another question that I cannot answer. But perhaps some of you have got more insight on this.
I mean, the only thing I'm aware of is that our application sandboxing started some way before the date of that blog post. So some of the decisions we will have made will have been done, without taking that into consideration because I don't think the GNOME stuff existed then. But I'm sure we could have conversations with them. I don't know whether we have recently.
Okay.
I mean, I think isn't the idea there basically that just to have containers for everything? So I'm not sure to what extent things necessarily make sense. It seems to me like they're pursuing sandboxing and security in a slightly different way. But I don't want to hold this up. We actually have a lot of questions, so I'll shut up.
All right. By the way, that the fact that there are a lot of questions doesn't mean that we shouldn't be answering. So feel free, Nick, to chip in. All right. Sorry, I've lost my thread. Oh yes. Well, blah blah is asking, when will Ubuntu Personal land on Ubuntu phones?
I think there's a transition period happening around 1604 for the phones that we release commercially. And then I think within the 1604 cycle is when we are pulling more of that platform over.
Okay. All right. Viraj is asking question. I want to join the Ubuntu community team. How? Well, one thing to bear in mind as well is I'm guessing you mean the wider community team. So I think the first thing to do is to find an area in which you're interested in and in which you might be interested. First of all, I'd recommend to go to community.ubuntu.com/find a task, which is a good place to find out the areas in which you can contribute. And also, I'd recommend you to subscribe to the Ubuntu-community-team at lists.ubuntu.com mailing list. I think it might be worth following the list for a while to see the kind of topics that have been discussed. But if you want to make an offer to join the team, or if you're looking for advice, it might be worth posting an email on there, and from there, people will definitely help you. Okay. So next question from Daniel Holbach. What do you think the landscape will look like for third-party app developers by 1604? I think that's one for you, Olli.
Yeah. Okay, probably it's mine to take now. I think it will look great. There's so many things you can do as a developer on Ubuntu. I think, as the personas we're looking at are general developers that develop code or documentation or do other great things. And then there is this whole set of developers that actually want to participate. Not only want to use the best developer desktop that's out there, but also participate in the Ubuntu ecosystem. And one of our goals for 1604 will be to have compelling documentation on developerubuntu.com. Iterate that, make sure that the latest and greatest documentation of all the platform APIs and any other API that we currently ship is well represented there. Again, Ubuntu Make will be a big asset in 1604. We're working on the SDK and improving that, and some internal chit chat. As we also had a few questions about how can I join the team. We'll need to dig it up, but currently we're advertising. We're looking for an engineering manager that's focusing on the developer experience. So when I opened my answer, I said it will be great. That's based on some organizational changes that we're doing to specifically address that. So if you've worked, if you have previous experience in the field of developer experience, if you've led teams there, please get in touch. That might be a really good way to come in. And I'll post the link in a little bit. Okay. Next question from Silvio. Are workspace
planned for Unity 8?
It's an interesting question because it was discussed recently. At this point, I don't really know where our thoughts in the design for that are. And we're saying we want to reach feature parity with Unity 7, which supports workspaces, virtual desktops. But I actually haven't gotten in touch with an update with our friends at the design team to see how it has evolved, how their thinking has evolved. So the answer is I don't know.
All right, next question from First4. On the market, there are some MHL cables to connect the MX4 with the monitor. Will that feature land in Ubuntu? Or is there any other way to connect MX4 with the monitor, Bluetooth or Wi-Fi? Is there a technical problem, or is there a lack of developers to do that?
So might get confused too, but to my knowledge, it's not possible, generally limited by the hardware. Correct me, anybody if I'm wrong.
That's the way I understand it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
You know, I should know that.
But I cannot tell the details either, so I was going to answer this in exactly the same way.
Yeah, it's a question we get asked a fair amount, and the only device that we've been testing on with an MHL cable to connect via HDMI to a display is the Nexus 4, and we know that works.
Yeah.
And 7, I believe, right? The tablet.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, you're right.
It better does. Yeah, so I think there's hardware limitations on the MX4 that don't support it. There's other technologies through Wi-Fi, through network. We've looked into that. The experience is bad, to be diplomatic. You know, it's good to stream a video, but that's about it. Any interactive experience suffers heavily from the lack of that connection.
All right. Okay. Blah is asking, since SDL2 is used so much for gaming, are there any plans to officially support SDL2, maybe even with a default template in the Ubuntu SDK? Poppy, I think I'll forward this one to you because I think you've actually been working on a template with some community members, right?
It actually wasn't me. I've played with it a little bit, but it's yeah. There is an SDL template on GitHub. There's a couple. Stoneflut and McPhail are two people who've both been working on that in the community, and there's a couple of example apps that use SDL. If you look for Neverball and Neverpup in the store, those are SDL apps. So that's an existing application that was already written against SDL running under Mir on the phone, and that works. There are some bugs. Brendan Schaefer works on that SDL part, the SDL stroke Mir part. So if you do find any bugs, then you know, where an existing SDL app doesn't work very well under Mir, then we need to get those bugs filed and get them fixed. We found a few, and some of them are device specific as well. So an app that works on MX4 and a BQ phone turned out didn't work very well on a Nexus 4 and Nexus 7, and we filed the bug, and Brendan fixed that. So yeah, that's they do work, but there are some gotchas. Whether we can put it into the whether we put it in the SDK, I don't know. It's possible, I guess, but it would need to pull in huge chunks of SDL or build SDL, libSDL on your machine, which is a bit there. So it's probably easier to just pull the template from GitHub, to be honest.
So press will read tomorrow. Ubuntu is switching to SDL as their base toolkit.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right. Well, if that means something, someone will help us doing that, and yeah, by all means. All right. Next question from Darren. Canonical seemed to have got rid of Ubuntu One just when it was needed the most. Are there any plans to have some kind of official way of synchronizing things from Ubuntu phone to Ubuntu on your laptop, or do I have to wait until we can get syncing on the phone?
So, to be clear, Ubuntu One hasn't gone away. Ubuntu One file sync went away. because basically everyone else was doing a better job of file sync than we were. And I would imagine in the future you might see a Dropbox app or a really robust SyncThing app. There is actually already a SyncThing app in the store, and there is a Dropbox client in the store, third-party tools. So we're getting there, and I would imagine soon there will be really robust clients for both of those and others. Maybe Microsoft OneDrive client down the road, and whatever your favorite file sync tool is, maybe materialize soon as well.
All right, cool. Guest 44652, someone joining via ubuntu.net.com. Is there any communication with the KDE community over Shashlik? That's Android applications on real Linux. So sorry, I need to rephrase the question a bit. Is there any communication with the KDE community over Shashlik approach by Dan, Leiner, Turtra, Jensen? Does Ubuntu consider this? I'm not familiar with this technology, so perhaps it's someone else's.
It was announced as, or it was mentioned in part of the Plasma Mobile announcement that was done a couple of weeks ago at Academy, KDE conference. And I think it was a bit of a surprise to a lot of people that Shashlik existed. I don't think a lot of us even knew it was there. But it's a method. For those that don't know, it's the code's on GitHub. If you look for Shashlik, it allows, or the goal is to allow you to run Android applications on a standard non-Android Linux machine, like an Ubuntu desktop or a Kubuntu desktop, or maybe a KDE Plasma phone. I think that's the ultimate goal. I don't think we have it in our roadmap to run Android apps on Ubuntu phone. So while it's interesting, and maybe interesting for someone else to port that to Ubuntu, I don't think it's something we're considering. Unless Olli knows differently.
Yeah,
it's a recurring. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Olli.
It's a recurring question we're getting, right? And as a new platform, your app ecosystem is vital, right? It's the chicken and egg problem. There's no users on the platform until they are attractive apps, but nobody wants to develop for a platform without users, So it's kind of this question we're getting if we couldn't increase our number of apps by being compatible or running existing Android apps. I think our stance has always been like, it's technically feasible and doable through whatever technology that is there, Shashlik being one of them. But we just don't feel good about how it would integrate into the system, right? We're trying to differentiate ourselves through the design and navigation and all that things that we're so obsessed about, and I don't see a good way how that would integrate nicely.
And once you say, you have Android apps as a first-class citizen on your platform, you then negate the motivation for people to create apps for your platform. Is one counter-argument to having it. But
yeah. It's an implication. I don't think it's the driving force really, but it's an implication. Yeah.
Okay, so next question from Kill1. So Ubuntu 16.04 will be the last traditional desktop Ubuntu with Unity 7, Xorg, and deb packages. From then on, it will start to be Unity 8, Mir, and Snappy.
All right, so the answer is nope. So 16.04, Ubuntu 16.04, which actually is also a long-term support release. It's not the last traditional, you have it in quotes, an IRC release, right? So it will always be Debian-based. As I said, archive being deb packages, everything we built is built out of the archives. So we're not, that's gonna stay. It's very sticky. As to when Unity and Mir will be part of the desktop of Ubuntu, we'll put that answer to that question in your hands. Let us know when you feel it's ready. And snappy as the adjective and the distribution don't mix very well. So we'll probably see, development tools for snap packages and things like that as packages available in Ubuntu, but it's a different architecture, and so we're not going to change the architecture of the Debian-based distribution. So I hope that answered that.
All right. Next question from Way2Y. All discussion is about the phones. Where do the tablets stand right now, such as supported Nexus 10?
My Nexus 10 stands in the bookshelf collecting dust. It has tablets are a target, right? That's the stepping stone in our convergence strategy. If you think about small screen touch device, a phone, to larger screen device that's more versatile, to full-blown desktop experience. So for the Unity team, that's just, it's a live active target. The Nexus 10 specifically, I think, we're not entirely happy with the GPU in there. It's a little bit funky and provides too much headaches than it should be. But I am using my Nexus 7 for testing and things, and that's quite usable. So I hope that answers that question.
Okay, so we've got about 3 minutes left. We've still got a few questions, but I think we can get a couple in still. So G Quicks is asking, any work to let me run Snap applications on the Deb system for the 16.04 release would make it much easier for app developers to target us. To be honest, I'm not sure I quite understand the question, but I think it's about running Snap or Snap applications or installing app applications on the traditional distribution.
So, totally overstepping my responsibilities. It's a question that needs to be asked to the Snappy team. But considering those are statically compiled, self-contained applications, technically they should just run there. I have really no insight or valid information as to what level of integration we really want to do there. I understand that it's important for the developer experience, but I would have to sync with ASEC and his friends to understand that. And then the runtimes are also different, right? So we do a lot of heavily sandboxing and confinement on a Snappy architected system. And so that's just not in the Deb-based distribution. So I don't know what the technical feasibility is of running that there. Punt.
Okay, cool. So I think I'm going to do a bit of a trade-off. I see there's still quite a lot of questions. A member of the community team at Canonical, M. Hall, Michael Hall, has been answering some of the questions on IRC already. So I think I'm going to pick some of the questions that might be interesting to get answered by Olli as our guest this week. I think for the rest of the questions, we can forward them to next week's Q&A. So I apologize if I miss some of your questions. I'm just going to do this so that we can get more out of the Q&A. So D. Scheimer is asking, is it possible to switch between standard Ubuntu and personal from the login screen? If not, is there a point where it will be possible?
That's a question similar to, can I switch from driving my car to riding a bike on the fly? The answer is you can, but it hurts. No. So no, it's two different things, right? Two different architectures. You're looking at dual boot at this point. What you want to do there. However, the experience, the shell, Unity 8, you will be able, and you are currently able to switch between the current desktop shell and the next evolution of the shell already today. So I think that's what you're really asking.
All right. Next question from Nick 90. As a developer, how should I be distributing apps so that it reaches a wide audience? As snaps or as Deb?
I think that depends on your audience. at this point. Snaps by 1604 is the right answer.
Yeah, and I want that to that as well. I mean, with as much as we like, or as much as we try to distribute applications for third-party app developers via the traditional method, via deb packages. I mean, our experience has been that that having an app store that's decoupled from the main distribution is the way to go. I say we've been trying this, and that's been our experience, and so that's what I would recommend as well as my personal suggestion. Okay, Jimbo Jumbo is asking, convergence also means backward compatibility with the applications currently running on the Ubuntu desktop, or should they be repackaged for Ubuntu phone?
Yes, they need to be repackaged. Specifically between the packaging formats, you know, we're thinking of some compatibilities, allowing for compatibility, but at this point, you know, you'll have to deliver your software as a Debian package, and you know, a click or a snap at this. That's how it is at this point.
Okay, cool. All right, I think with that we're a bit over time, but I think we've got a question that we cannot possibly skip. Kiwi is asking, can Olli sing a song for us at the end, just like Jonah used to do in his Q&As? No pressure.
I'll defer that to Poppy. No. One day when I feel really good, I might play a tune on my guitar, but not today. I still feel good today. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed myself a lot with you guys and everybody on the channel.
All right.
At this point, it's lullabies for the kids.
Cool. All right. I think with the request to sing a song to Poppy, he just left the channel right now. In any case, as a wrap up, again, thanks everyone for your good questions. I apologize that we didn't get the time to answer all of them, but I think we got through quite a lot of content. We'll be seeing this more and more, as in having guests to our Q&As. I think this is something that you told us that you appreciate, and I think it's not also fun for us. It's useful for you guys, and I think, or I'm hoping that guests are enjoying it as well. So just to wrap up, thanks everyone for the good questions. Thanks for watching us. Thanks a lot, Olli and the rest of the team for your time and for the answering of questions, even if they were tricky ones. These are the most fun ones. And with this, I think we can wrap it up until next week at the same time for the next Ubuntu Community Team Q&A.
Alrighty, I had a blast. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.